Hello, everybody. Andrew Taylor here. Today we have Nat Di Carlo with us. Nat, thank you for coming in. Interesting. I'm excited to have you in because I know when you started in what was it, 2021?
Yeah, late 2021.
You, what I remember is you were at rock bottom financially,
Yeah,
um, and you made kind of a pretty crazy comeback. And I remember people telling me like, "Dude, check out what he did." And he has no resources and he's just grinding all day and all night. Uh so we asked you to come in because you've consistently been Hall of Fame producer, and there's a lot of people that could be in your situation
right.
and they don't know if there's a way out. And the goal here today is to, give them some hope and give them a plan.
Absolutely.
So if you can start, just tell us a little bit about your background and let's learn about what happened up to 2021 and
Sure. Yeah.
what.
Yeah. So basically, I started out in financial services when I was 21. I was a stockbroker for a number of years. I had a successful business. About 15 or 20 years into the business, I decided to start doing some pretty substantial real estate development. And we got into multiple projects, very successful at it the first few years. Started to really leverage and take it to another level. And right about that time is when the pandemic hit, and we were faced with some projects that we were stuck with, trying to get through some different entitlements and different things that we needed to do. And it just became apparent that we were just going to struggle. I had massive debt on the properties. I had loans that were outstanding, and it just became very clear that I wasn't going to make it through, and there was really no way out. And I had spent all of my personal savings and livelihood keeping my employees and my real estate company going. We had 15 or 20 employees on any given time. And it just got to the point where I needed to find something else. And rather than go back into the financial services, I was introduced to this opportunity through my upline, Al. And I like the idea of sort of raw sales, and I like the idea of building an agency. So that's basically where I stepped in.
How big were these projects?
Millions of dollars,
Like how many millions?
20, 30.
And you had successful ones?
Yeah, we did. As we started to grow, they started to get bigger. You know, you start to leverage up, you have some success. We started building homes, and then we started building some tracks, and then we started doing some large developments. And it just got to the point where it was pretty big. And when you shut down overnight and you're not able to get things through, having debt is really a dangerous thing. It can be a good tool, but it also can hurt you, and it definitely hurt me.
If COVID didn't happen, would that have happened?
I think we would have been fine. I mean, obviously, it still was a big undertaking, but that was just the death knell. There was no way to get through
Because
it.
I'm doing my first project, which is pretty big.
Right.
And some of these guys are, I don't know. They're like, yeah, dude, there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
There are. I mean, it's not just that. I mean, it wasn't just the entitlements. It's a large undertaking, depending on if you're doing residential, commercial. There's all kinds of factors that can go into be successful or not. So I can't place all the blame on that, but that was the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. So, um,
Now, were you raising the money? How were you?
yeah, we had a bunch of sources of capital, including investor capital, but also banks and lenders, private lenders, banks, those kinds of things. So, it got to the point where I just knew there was really no way for me to solve it, and no way, especially for me to solve it personally, and it was just going to be a mess. So the only option at that point was to kind of take a look. At the time, I was just turning around 50, and what was the next 10 or 15 years going to look like? And this looked like an amazing opportunity to get started.
Yeah, that's sweet, dude. So like 2021, how bad was it? Like,
Well, the reality is that I waited too long. I was pumping money into this operation, trying to keep it afloat for 3 or 4 years, and it just got to the point where I was out of resources, like literally out of resources. So, um,
what were you making when it was good?
I mean, I was used to a very good lifestyle. hundreds of thousands of dollars of income. Just a very good lifestyle. I've always been successful. I was, started at 21 as a stockbroker and never looked back, and I was very successful all those years. And I was used to a good lifestyle. I was used to a comfortable lifestyle, and for me, I needed to find a way to make income quickly. Number one, and I wanted something that I could make a lot of income, and most importantly, I wanted to be able to do something on my own. I wanted to be in sales, so
Yeah.
I can set my own schedule.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you live in Newport Beach?
Yeah, Orange County, huh?
That's my wife loves it there. We
Yeah.
always go to the Lido House.
Yeah, that's a great spot. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and anytime we get like 2 nights with no kids, we go to the Lido House,
Yep.
and she loves it. And we go look at houses all around. Every time we walk around, we
Yeah,
look at these big old houses on the water.
there's some great properties down there for sure.
We Zillow them and see how much they're worth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a blast though. What a beautiful place, dude.
Yeah.
I got to ask you this. Is it like what I noticed is a lot of people take for granted like the cool things around them after they are there for a while. Is that how it is there? Does the beach just become taken for
100%.
granted?
Yeah, but I've learned over the years to start to appreciate it when I was in the thick of things and living down there, and you don't really appreciate how good you have it. But when you kind of lose and you're starting over, you really appreciate how good it is there. And so I don't know any better place on the planet. If you want a staycation, you want to be there, you want to, vacation, there's really nothing better than that.
Yeah, I if you want to appreciate it, come to Vegas in August
Exactly.
and then go back.
Right.
Cuz every August we're like, dude, we got to go somewhere where it's not so hot.
Exactly.
All right. Cool, man. So 2021, did you have any money to buy leads? Did you have any money at all?
Well, I mean, very little. I had to get a little help, and in fact, I think you won't remember this, but I scraped together some leads from you, and I went to North Carolina.
That's right.
I got my first batch of leads in locally, and I started running in L.A. County, trying to do my in-home to learn. And I spent a week or two doing that, and it was tough. It wasn't producing like I thought it should. And I was seeing in the CRM at the time all these leads in North Carolina, Virginia, and I thought, man, I got to go where the leads are. And so I was able to scrape together enough money to get my first batch of leads in North Carolina, and started making dials to set appointments, booked a flight, and found an Airbnb and rented a car and just started running appointments in North Carolina.
Yeah, I remember you were like willing to take any extra
Yeah,
leads and you would grind them
I had
down.
some old leads, and I remember sitting on the side of the road dialing these leads, and they were rough, but I didn't really have a choice. There was no option B. I was literally no option B. And there was a point when I was in North Carolina a couple times where I'd get down to my room was up, car was up, needed to get back home, and I had no money, and I just needed to make that sale. I had to get on the phone and get that next batch and hope it was going to work out. So fortunately, it did. Kept grinding.
What was the pressure like at that time?
Well, it's amazing pressure, but what I had just gone through, this was kind of a breath of fresh air.
Easy.
It was just me against, me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to deal with any outside pressures. I didn't have to deal with banks and lenders and investors
employees,
and cities and all that mess. So it was kind of a relief. But yeah, I mean, there's some real fear being in a foreign state with no way to get home and no money to get home, and really trying to make it work. And but I like that. That was fun, and it was one of the most interesting and fun parts of my life, to be honest, looking back.
traveling around.
Yeah, and just being raw like that, just taking a chance and, betting on yourself, buying some leads and going after it. I mean, that's about as real as it gets.
Yeah. You know, it's weird. I was pretty happy because now are you doing everything virtually now?
Yeah.
So like I was pretty happy for some reason traveling on the road. Like it was like I would just throw on some podcasts,
Yeah.
learn, and like the scenery was always changing.
Yeah.
It was almost like some type of therapy.
I agree. 100%.
Did you notice that
Yeah,
too?
well, especially from being from here in California, from California. I mean, being in North Carolina is beautiful, just traveling through the countryside. It was pretty therapeutic. It didn't The in-home to me, what I found, especially coming back trying to do it here in Southern Cal, was it's just not very productive. I felt like I knew how to sell. I needed more opportunities to be in front of people, and so that's really why I transitioned to telesales.
And how's it going?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, once I switched to telesales, my business exploded.
Did it change your lifestyle at all? Like what you're able to do? More time?
Yeah, definitely more time. But although, I always caution people, I actually work more, with telesales. I think you put more time, more hours, but they're your own hours and they're flexible. You can manage it better. But to be fair, I believe I'm putting more time of actual work in being on the phone.
Got it.
Yeah.
What's your schedule?
I'm 7 days a week. I haven't stopped that. I still got some things to accomplish. I typically start my day at 5:30 in the morning local time, and I go through 6 or 7 at night local time, pretty much every day.
What do you do for fun?
I
Dial?
find time. I find time. I find.
Any restaurants in Newport?
Oh, there's amazing restaurants everywhere. Laguna, Newport, there's
So we
fantastic.
go to like Mama D's. Have you been
Yeah,
there?
sure. Mama D's is good. Yeah, yeah. You ever get down to
They
Laguna?
yeah, we go to Laguna sometimes.
Yeah.
What's the good restaurants there?
I mean, there's a ton. I mean, there's uh, Solani's is really good. 230 Forest Cafe is really good. There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
It's just a different vibe down there. I actually like Laguna better than Newport
Do
now.
you?
I do.
We call it Sleepy Laguna.
Yeah, it's different.
Like it shuts down at like 6 p.m.
It just depends on where you're at. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Funny enough, I w- Nicole and I went there, and Vivian, Vivian and
I do.
Adriano,
Yeah.
they got a huge team. Um, Someone was like, "Hey," someone called me. They're like, "Hey, you got to try to recruit Vivian, and she's in Laguna, and you're in Laguna, and it's just
Okay.
randomly there." So
Wow.
I took a break to run over and go meet her. We just had my son Atlas, uh, and then he recruited her because he was a newborn,
Okay.
and she was obsessed with babies
Nice.
because she wanted to have a baby. I guess she was gonna have another baby or something.
Good timing.
And so she always reminds me. She goes, "You didn't recruit me, Atlas did."
That's great. Well,
um,
well, that was a good recruit.
yeah, but yeah, that's the beautiful thing about this business, dude. You can travel, you can work from anywhere in the U.S.
Right.
and you can build a team with awesome people. Are you building a team?
Slowly, it's definitely something I want to do, and I want to focus more. I had to kind of focus a bit on myself for a minute, but that's a priority now, for sure.
Did you do anything? What else did you do to get better? Did you do any personal development? Did you do any
With regards to this business,
just in life?
um, yeah, I mean, nothing specifically. I think there's just a mindset shift when you go through something like that midlife. It does something to you. You sort of appreciate things a little bit differently, and so I focus on just different qualities of life that I never did when I was really grinding when I was younger. So
Yeah.
it's just a different mentality completely. You'll see someday.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I'm excited about like telesales because any age, well, you got to be 18, but you can be older
Right,
and sometimes opportunities can close when you get older or like sometimes like big companies they want young, they probably would never say this, but
right,
they're going to bring in young talent and it's like, "Oh, you know,
right.
what's the opportunity for me?" And the reason I'm saying that is because my stepdad, he in 2000 I think in 2008 he got fired and he couldn't find a job.
Yeah,
And the stress was like unbelievable.
yeah.
And then unfortunately, a few years later, he passed away from a heart attack. And I always said, like, all these stresses probably compiled up to have something to do
Absolutely,
with that, right?
absolutely.
So I have this huge, like, I don't know, the way I look at this business is you could take someone who they just lost their job. They're going through something really tough in life. They have a medical condition. So say all of a sudden someone gets hit with a medical condition. They can't go to work every day,
Right.
but they could get on the phone
Hmm.
and they can make some calls and they can create something where they can provide value to people and also make money. So I think, dude, the telesales thing changed the game for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're dead on with that. I mean, I would be nervous if I would have to go out into the workforce. I mean, I've always been in sales, so I can't imagine doing something else. But it does narrow as you get older, I'm sure. But this business takes all that away. I mean, as long as you're not afraid to be on the phone, it's good for somebody 18 or 80. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So my uncle Jimmy, uh, he was in. He now is one of our top sales guys, and he was in the uh, Las Vegas like nightlife industry
Hmm.
forever, like 30 years or something. And he's like, I worked all the time. And he just told me this the other day. He's like, now I get to work for myself
Right.
and I get to make my own schedule and I get to get all the benefits for myself. And then my mother in law just got her license. She's been making sales over the phone.
Nice.
Um, a bunch of my friends, I finally talked into. I'm like, dude, this makes sense. Like, you
Hmm.
should definitely look at it. And then they're like, oh, what a lot of them are realizing is you just have to put a lot of activity in
Yeah.
until you figure it out.
Right. It took me a while to figure it out, to be honest. I mean, took me about 6 months to really get it down,
Yeah.
and then once I figured out the connection, the lead flow, then it's just a matter of increasing your activity. It's not a very difficult business. It's not rocket science, but that first few months is a little tricky, and a lot of people just don't have the guts to stick it out. They don't have the fortitude to make enough dials and grind through that tough time. But once they can get through that, it gets a lot easier, and it gets to be a very repeatable business, which is amazing.
So, like, what kind of leads do you work, and what do you recommend someone
Yeah.
who's trying to figure this thing out?
Yes, I started with the instant internet leads. That's what I started out with and started running. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with those. I did transition when I started doing telesales. I transitioned to mortgage protection leads. I knew that space very well. It just seemed natural to try to jump into that. And I was able to lock out some direct mailers, which was good. And then I do age CRM mortgage leads right out of the system, and those work well. Um, I would say focus on something, and whether it's final expense or mortgage or even IULs now, I don't think it matters. I think it's just whatever you're comfortable with and stick with it. Just make sure you have enough leads and stick with it. There's no silver bullet. You know this. There's no magic lead.
Yeah.
It's activity. It's having enough leads and putting in the
And
activities.
attitude.
Attitude, and that's the hardest part. I think that I go through my cycles. You'll run, you'll have a great couple weeks, you'll make a ton of money, and then you'll get chargebacks, and you go through the cycles, it's
Yeah.
hard.
That's what I've always said is the doom loop.
The doom loop. Yeah, I remember you saying that early on. Yeah.
Yeah, I would end up in the doom loop every
Right.
3 weeks, and I'm like,
Right.
does this still work?
The only way to get out of the doom loop is to increase your activity.
Yeah.
And every time I do that, and whenever I've been really, really down or really frustrated, I double up my efforts. I literally double up my leads and my efforts, and it always works itself out.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Do you do any reading, uh, podcasts?
Um, I do. I mean, I do. I have my sources. I do still watch a lot of the FFL stuff. I mean, I know a fair amount about the insurance, and but I always learn things, little nuances, different tweaks that people are doing to be successful. So I stay up on that.
Dude, we've been having people come in every week again, and I've been learning all kinds of stuff from
Yeah.
from the managers or producers,
Right.
which is awesome.
Well, yeah, you get all these new people with new ideas. It's a great way to get fresh.
Yeah. So we're starting new agents on the $20 IUL and $20 vet leads in ILC, which is super easy to turn on.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the nice thing is most people know why you're
You're
calling.
calling, yeah.
So like the way I look at a lead, good or bad, is I'm like, do they know why I'm calling?
Right.
Well, first of all, do they pick up the phone?
Right.
Second of all, do they know why I'm calling?
Right.
Same with you.
Yeah, I mean, the most frustrating thing for me in this business ever was the fact that nobody picked up the phone. Because once I got somebody on the phone, it was easy for me. But
Yeah.
frustrating, just dialing, nobody picking up the phone.
Any
So,
tips on getting people to pick up the phone?
yeah, you've got to aggressively dial those leads. You got to triple dial them multiple times a day to use different phone numbers. You got to be hammering those leads multiple times.
Yeah.
And people say it's annoying. They don't want to do it. They feel like they're intruding on these people. The reality is it's the only way to get through. and people are going to be fine. Just do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge, man. If someone wanted to work with you, because a lot of times people go, you know what, I could relate to him,
Yeah.
and I'd like to work with him. How could they reach you?
They can just dial my cell. It's 949-290-1660.
Awesome, man. Um, Biggest obstacle starting over from scratch with zero. You're doing 50 to 60K in personal production every month. You're spending $4,500 every month on leads. So
Right.
for everybody watching this, like you're putting money out
Oh,
to
yeah.
get this many sales.
Absolutely.
Um,
I was saying if you're not getting a little ill every time you push the button for the lead flow, then you're not buying enough leads. And
yeah,
it works for me the same way.
isn't that like how life is supposed to be?
Yeah.
Like,
You've got to be a little uncomfortable every time you push that lead order. It's if you're not, then you're not buying enough.
yeah, or in life in general, like
It
whatever you're
is.
doing, stay uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. You're doing everything over the phone, mainly IUL and final expense. Cool, man.
Yeah, I would say just keep consistent, have a system, use automations, use a CRM. I'm using Lead Champ Pro, which is an amazing tool. I've used Ringy in the past. They're all great. Just find something that you're comfortable with.
What about quote tools?
Quote tools, I don't know.
Like, do you use any tools for quoting?
Uh, no, I just go to FFL America and go to the quotes or wherever or the portal to the
So,
carriers. Nothing fancy.
Integrity Lead Center built something pretty cool that a lot of people don't know about, but it will quote final expense like through everybody for you,
Okay.
and you just put in the
Right.
medications and everything,
Right.
and it's a free tool. Just people don't know about it.
I'm too fast for that on the phone. I can't be messing around with that. I got it all right up here.
Yeah, but if you guys are watching this, you should check that out. It's
Yeah.
pretty sweet.
It's called Quote Tools?
So it's in Integrity Lead Center, and they built something that will manage all your leads called
Okay.
Integrity Clients.
Got it.
And in that, there is a quote tool that basically I'll just put in your info, and it'll give me
For all the carriers. Yeah, that's really cool.
every carrier at one time.
Right. That's really great. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
it knows if you have type 2 diabetes and Americo's product doesn't want that, it will not show it to you.
Hmm.
And it
Interesting.
gets really detailed in underwriting. So it'll be like, did you have type 2 diabetes? How many months ago? How long have you been taking insulin? Are you taking any other blood pressure medications? And it has the whole underwriting
Right.
system integrated inside of it.
That's great. I'll check it out.
So, all right, bro. Thanks for coming in, man.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Have a
See you
good
guys.